Right, attendances, apologies and approved leave of absence. We have no apologies. Full council in the chambers today. And there's no approved leave of absences. Declarations of interest. I have a declaration of interest from Councillor Vanderloo in item 7.4.1 black spot funding on the Speedway Road. The nature of the interest is financial and the extent of the interest is Councillor Vanderloo's company has priced this work previously. So number one. Number two is from Councillor Kelly in item 7.3.2, the CGFFD ongoing sponsorship round through the funding for the Gascoyne Food Council. The nature of the councillor's interest is impartiality, and the extent of the interest is the councillor is participant in terms of 5.63.1 and the organisations of the NPO. My role is highly volunteer. And I'm Councillor Dudley Maslin, FSD for Carnarvon Growers, item 7.1.5. The nature of the interest is financial. The extent of the interest is Councillor Maslin is a grower. I have one from Councillor Luke Skender of 7.1.5. Tip amnesty for Carnarvon Growers. The nature of the interest is financial, and the extent of the interest is Councillor Skender is a plantation owner. And I have one from Councillor Marco Farina on item 7.1.5. The nature of the interest is financial, and the extent of the interest is Marco the grower. And I also have one from myself on item 7.1.5. The nature of my interest is financial, and the extent, financial, and the extent is I'm also a grower. Thank you, councillors. If anybody else realises they've got an interest in any of the items, please let me know as soon as they can. Thank you very much. We have public question time. We do have 3 hours. Yes, question right here. Question that from Mrs. Karina Barry. The blowholes has been the site of some medical emergencies over the past years, and tragically in the last couple of weeks there have been no defibrillators. There are no defibrillators at the popular tourist destination, not meaning that life-saving medical attention is now away. Can the Shire consider installing 3 defibrillators at the blowholes? Response: I'm sorry, one defibrillator has been purchased and will be installed at the public toilet building at the aquarium in the coming weeks. In addition to this, a detailed report on the installation of additional defibrillators in the Blowholes Eco Reserve will be presented at the November council meeting for council consideration. Table this one. Yeah, this one is just to be tabled. We received comments. Well, this is from Gail and Greg Harper, 12 Montreal Street, Fremantle. This comments: dear Mrs. Hill, our family used to live in Carnarvon and have had a shack at the Blowhole for many decades. My husband and I were both teachers at Carnarvon Senior High School, and our children went to both the primary and the high schools. Although we now live in Fremantle, we have close ties to Carnarvon and people in the shack, and revisit Carnarvon a number of times a year to use our shack. As a result of that, of course, we spend a lot of money in Carnarvon on fuel and supplies. I would like to take advantage of the offer of an annual payment of $105 to continue to use our shack and visit the beach at the Blowholes, as it has been offered to people who live in the 6701 postcode, and also we believe in leave to residents at Quabba Station. Is it true that Quabba is being able to take advantage of the annual payment using postcode 6705? Could you please see this letter? See that this letter is tabled at the next council meeting, which we've done. I have to read out the response. Okay, the response to that will be posted in the minutes. Thank you. Yeah. There's no further questions. Confirmation and receiving of the minutes. Councillors, we have the minutes 4.1 of the ordinary council meeting on 27 July, 4.2 the special council meeting 12th of August. Someone move that we adopt both those, please. Councillor Ganda, Councillor Vanderloo seconded that. Is there any debate on that? Being no debate, that's adopted unanimously. Thank you. And we received the minutes of the council at the meeting of the Management Review Committee 21st of July, the minutes of the Major Projects Committee 22nd of July 2025, and the minutes of the Community Growth Fund Committee 19th of August. Over to got them. Councillor Farina, Councillor Vanderloo, thank you. Is there any debate, discussion? That's adopted unanimously. Mr. Still. Announcements by the President without discussion. Yes. 1.1. As we all know, we've got the upcoming council elections in October. Nominations are open on the 28th of August and they close on the 4th of September. So in other words, if there's anybody out there, if you've got any thoughts at all about applying, please nominating, please do. There are 5 positions in total available, being 2 in the town ward, 1 in the 4-year term, 2 positions with a 4-year term in the town ward, 1 position in the town ward for 2-year term, the Plantation ward for a 4-year term, and the Coral Bay ward for a 4-year term. And I'm pretty sure our current councillor for the Plantation ward will put his hand up again. Yeah, yes, good man. It's a great opportunity for any members of the public out there to step forward and represent their community. It is rewarding, and it's a great way to contribute to the future shape and the future of Carnarvon. And we really do need some diversity in this council, including women. So I'd really like to see 1 or 2 women put their hands up. It'd be really great to get that change of opinion or difference. And look, anybody that's passionate about Carnarvon, please consider nominating. So to nominate, it's really simple. You can contact the Shire of Carnarvon or the returning officer, Paige Ryan. So, and you can probably do that through the Shire as well. So, especially for the people out there listening, please consider it. Thank you. Presentations, petitions and memorial. This is Janet Hartley West. You're up. Thank you, Janet.
Would you like me to stand here?
Fantastic.
Well, this is a bit formal.
Actually, we probably should put it up here so these guys aren't turning around. Live stream here. Sorry. Okay. No worries. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting myself. I'm Janet Hartley West. I'm the Regional Director of the Midwest Gascoyne region for Main Roads. So responsible for this area. I've got Gaff myself here with me, who's our Operations Manager based in the office up here. I'm predominantly based in the office in Geraldton and come up here once a month for 3 or 4 days at a time. So here. So I'm just going to go through, I'll see if I've got this working. Turn it on, is it? Got it. Okay, so I'm just been asked to come and present about what we're doing this year in the region. I did ask if there was any specific questions that wanted covering and there was none. So I'm just hopefully telling you what you'd like to know. So for this year on our delivery program, we've got a number of projects. We've got the Manelia Exmouth Road, Learmont intersection, and combined with an Indian Ocean Drive Pinnacles intersection improvements. We're delivering that through our statewide construction panel, approximately 4.5 million for both projects. And I can say that's been out to tender. We've done the tender evaluation and it's about to be awarded. No, not awarded yet. I haven't quite got that permission there, but it's nearly there. So that will be looking to be started soon. We've got Brand Highway widening. We've got about 70 kilometres of widening on our Brand Highway, including 2 overtaking lanes. We're going to be delivering that through our direct managed crew. So our in-house model with some plant hire, etc. So that's about $20 million worth. We've got a Brand Highway shared path, which we're actually delivering on behalf of the city and it's funded by DOT. It's not a main roads project per se, but they've asked us to deliver that. So we've got that one going through a minor works contract to the approximate value of $2.5 million. Again, that one's already out to tender and tenders have been received and we're assessing those. And then we've got 2 quite significant widening projects under the Rural Road Safety Program on Great Northern Highway. The Mount Magnet to Kew widening is underway at the moment, and then we will continue on with the next section. So significant dollars there. And I'm not sure whether you guys are aware, but that road safety program funding that we've been doing a lot of widening on the state highway network, we've probably chugged through about nearly $1 billion so far across the state. The government's starting to fund local government projects for that. So over the next couple of years, instead of us getting about 170 million a year across the state and the local government about 50, it's going to reverse. The state's our one will peter off, and then there'll be a lot more money available for local government roads. Now that's the seal widening out to 9 metres, reducing the rural runoff road crashes, etc. So, and there are a number of projects this year that the local governments have received. I believe there's 5 different local governments in the Midwest area that have received funding in the 25-26 year. So something for you guys that might be interested in is widening your roads and getting the sealed shoulder in. And I believe it is fully funded. It's state funded, yes.
That could include resealing,
Yes, so it's sealing the shoulders. So why?
but no actually resealing.
No. So just if you wanted to reseal the road at the same time, that would need to be your own funds. Yeah, bugger. Yeah, it's just the widening. Yeah. So that's our delivery program for this year. We also got a number of projects that we're developing up. So we're looking at removing 3 stock grids on the Manila Exmouth Road. One's a grid removal and replaced with a culvert. The others are 2 grid removals and reinstate the pavement. And after preparing this presentation yesterday, I've now been told that we actually do have the funding for one of those this year, and we're likely to get that done before the end of September. So that's good news. We're developing up a couple of intersection improvements and improvements along Northwest Coastal Highway, which is in the town of Geraldton. Again, they are subject to funding. We are hoping to get construction funding for 26-27, but nothing's confirmed at this point. And construction that we've got programmed beyond 26-27, again, subject to funding. We've got Brand Highway overtaking lanes. Now that's right at the southern end near Gingin. Indian Ocean Drive, Gingin Brook Road intersection improvements. We've been approached with a development of a possible service station. And so we're looking at doing an intersection about along with the development. Brand Highway, Gingin Brook Road improvements, Northampton, Calvary Road and Horrocks Road intersection improvements. And then the Geraldton Walkaway Nungaloo section is our next section up for widening under the Rural Road Safety Program. So they've got a number of initiatives in the region. And then we've got a couple of larger planning projects on the go. So the Donga, Geraldton, Northampton alignment definition phase, colloquially known as the DGN. That's the big planning project to do a transport corridor, which goes around the outside of Geraldton and takes the heavy vehicles out of that. It is part of the Carnarvon to Mouchet project, which is the RAV10s down to, from Carnarvon down to Mouchet. But we've heard that that one, even though it's on the Infrastructure Australia is the stage 1, it's not progressing any further at this stage. But we do have the Geraldton Mount Magnet Road, which is a $250 million business case at the moment. And we're going to resubmit that for 26, 27. And inside information is that seems to be a little bit more interest from the government on the Geraldton Mount Magnet than the Carnarvon to Mouchet at this point. So that's what we're working on in the future. Local road upgrades around here. So my understanding is that through your local government program, you've got the Wabanalu Road, which had some funding from 24-25, which has got about approximately 200K still to claim. And then that you've got the next program of that work on ready to go for 25-26. And then there's a couple of black spot projects in here. There's the Speedway Road from 23-24. And I see that you're discussing that later on in the meeting here. And then you've got your new one for a couple of new ones for Manilia Linden Road and French Street, Coral Bay. And I'm not sure whether you're aware, but we've already had someone from the caravan park at Coral Bay write to the minister on that black spot project. So we've done a response saying they need to contact yourselves. So yes, so it's out in the public domain. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to sort of mention from our perspective within Main Roads is for our budget for 25-26, we set what we call the August benchmark and we have a KPI against that. So at the beginning of August, we set what we think we are going to spend for the financial year 25-26. And we are then locked in and need to, and we measured on plus or minus 5% of that. That budget does include all of the grants that comes through the regional road group and the black spots that are not necessarily delivered by us, they're delivered by the local government. So we've set that, and I'm looking for across the region about 173 million for the year. But it's just giving you the awareness that if you're not able to spend your funds, is let us know early on, because we may be able to, within the Main Roads program, reassign those funds to another project, another region to meet our KPI, and then you can have the funds the next year. So we do manage that program. We do have to meet our KPI, and I think we managed to just get it last year. And what traditionally happens, and it happened within the Midwest Gascoyne region, beginning of June, thought we were going to spend, I think it was around 20 million for the month of June, bring in the KPI as we needed. And then within the next 2 weeks of June, I lost 10 million off the program, which was, and it was local government stuff. A lot of it was around Midwest, but you can't help the weather, etc. But that's why if we do know that we're not going to spend earlier on in the year, it's important to let us know. We can reassign that funds. And then maintenance for us in the region, we're continuing with our routine maintenance for 25-26. So there'll be a number of pavement repairs, drainage works, and vegetation control and normal periodic maintenance. And we'll be looking to prepare the network for the risk of bushfire season. Talking to one of our workers who's also on the bushfire, says you've got a high fuel load here, so that's a bit concerning. So we'll be doing our best to make sure that our roads are doing their part. And that's me, unless there's any specific questions.
Just one from me, I think at the moment.
Yeah.
That first backlog, about 70 Ks of roadworks, where's that occurring? You said the 151K SLK through the.
That's between Badgingarra and any other
Okay, down the point.
Yeah.
Right.
on Brand Highway. Yes.
Thank you.
I've got a question.
Yes.
With them looking after the local roads and all that, does that go out to the plantations as well? Like South and Norfolk Road and all that kind of stuff? Or do you also go out there and maintain the verges and all that?
We
the
look
roads?
after our state network. So we've only got Northwest Coastal Highway and Robinson Street up in this area and then the next road, etc. But the local government roads, the vegetation is managed by local governments.
Thank you.
Sorry, just one more bit broader subject. I've noticed mainly in the Gascoyne region, there's very limited use of the audioable road markings that they quite often use further south.
Yes.
That I've always felt they're definitely got to be one of the best bang for buck road safety initiatives out there. Is there any reason that they're not used as much up here, or is there any plan to further them through this area?
When you're putting the audible edge lines on, you need to have a sealed shoulder of 1 metre beyond them.
Yep.
And so where we've had the right seal width, we're looking to install, and then and that's what that road safety program that I was talking about earlier is about, is actually widening out for the 9 metres or getting that 1 metre sealed shoulder and putting in the audible edge line. So where we can, we will put it in. And like I say, it's very, very effective in improving the safety.
Is it ever considered to essentially just even do the middle of the road? Because we've had 2 bad head-on car accidents in the last month in this area.
Yes, we do put audible centre line in this Brand Highway has audible centre line. We do both, so do edge lines and audible centre line. Yep. So we can look at that. Yep. It's not the cheapest to put in, but we can look at getting it in. A lot of Brand Highway also has the audible centre line, and it's grey, so you don't actually notice it. Because so it blends in with the seal.
That Northwest Coastal Highway south of Namibia, around that kind of Yoringa gravel pit site, I didn't notice anything on the forecast for that in the next couple of years or so. Is that something
That's
work to be done in that area?
We've got a development project on that one. That one is of a significant sort of 100 million plus estimate, because it needs overlay as well as widening. It has been on the books, and that's where I mentioned that the flavour at the moment seems to be Geraldton Mount Magnet rather than just Carnarvon to Boucher, which would pick up that section. But we certainly have it on our future radar that it needs to be done. And it's not forgotten. And we also, there wasn't that long ago, there was a nasty fatality head on there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No further questions? Thanks very much, Jim.
Yeah, very good.
Right, moving right along. David. One way.
Thank you. Apologies, I haven't got a presentation, but just want to have a general conversation about what Horizon Power's done in the region. So those who don't know me, I'm Heath Grebert. I'm the Senior Regional Manager for Midwest Gascoyne. And I've got Caroline Forms, Customer Community Manager. Change the acronyms up a little bit every now and then, but most of the projects we've looked at in Carnarvon Shire recently, and over the last 5 years I've been in Carnarvon, have been predominantly based around reliability of our assets and reliability of supply to our customers. So the last 12 months, some of the projects we undertook was Lake McLeod Power Line out to Leichhardt. We've changed that back from 33 kV back to 22 kV. We've worked with Leichhardt on capacity to make sure there's future growth opportunity there. Since that is such a heavily polluted line, what it's done is created more reliability for them as a business. So we're not having so many trips and drop-offs and bits and pieces. But some of that impact was actually starting to impact reliability of the town side as well. So we've re-insulated that line 3 years ago. So we changed out 440 cross arms with new 33 kV high pollution insulators. We've just turned it back to 22 kV. So we get increased performance out of that. And then we'll be decommissioning some of the step-up, step-down transformers and end-of-life assets as well. So they're last year we done 70 poles alone. Power poles we changed out in Carnarvon alone. That was part of pole-based testing, where we have some specific testing done to say that pole is coming towards the end of life, so we're picking up before they become failure issues. We did have 2 unassisted pole failures in Carnarvon last year, which were 2 streetlight columns. They were replaced, and we're just looking at our testing methodology there. The best one I really liked is in the last 12 months. Previously, we've done out on the Ballfields line, we've done that undercrossing for the cable, so it can bolster up supply should we be challenged on our network for our growers and people out on and Water Corp out that line. We've been able to automate a switch out there, so beforehand, if something were to happen, the crew who had to travel out there, which is like with rain the other day would have been an impact, things like that. So to have that automated now just means we can respond quicker should something occur on them lines to keep the reliability up to the staff out there, up to the people out there on the north-south Moorfields. Up in Mangala Power Station, we've done a heap of overhauls on the gas gensets just to keep up reliability on them. They're performing well. One little one we just had finished right now, as of last week, we had solar panels installed on the Isles Road logistics shed. Horizon Power, through our CFO, Mike Houlihan, was able to get some funding, and what it is 50% of the panels are fitted a new style of panel that are 6% of the thickness of traditional solar panels, 30% of the weight. We're doing trials to see how they perform on our logistics shed to see could they be something could be available in the market. I think we've had some feedback from customers in Carnarvon with older houses to say they can't fit the traditional solar panels due to the challenges with the reinforcement and the size and weight. Could this be an option for not only just Carnarvon customers, but customers everywhere? So they'll be run over trial over 12 months to see their performance and see how they go. So it'd be interesting. That only got finished last week. I'll show you as an example at one stage because they are basically like just a bit of lemonade sheet as they were glued down the roof. So it was very interesting to see what that trial's going to do. And we'll go from there. Resurfacing of the researching project, we had the Isles Road Logistics Yard. So that's really bolstered up our logistics capability in Carnarvon to service our region. So the changes there, if people weren't aware, is beforehand, trucks either used to go out through the Midwest and drop off the equipment to my other regions in Mount Magnet, Meekatharra, and come up our way and drop off. Horizon Power invested and built the large logistics shed there. We've got the large logistics yard there to make this our logistics hub. So everything will deliver to Carnarvon, then we'll start pushing things out as we need to. Plus, Horizon Power has a number of equipment stored in Perth, which we're paying for to have stored down there. The idea is to shift it further north so we can store it at our own location and have ready to deploy further north should we need to. So that's been a really good project. Caroline's always likes to remind me, his community partnerships has partnered with non-for-profit organisations to the value of 100K in the last 2 years in Carnarvon Shire alone. So that community partnerships has been really beneficial to a lot of individual groups in the town. And it's really good to see. Next 12 months. So in our financial 26, we're doing much the same as just really investing our money smartly in reliability. So there's 80 poles in Carnarvon to be changed this year. And that continues to get rid of the old non-treated timber poles we have in the town. 90% of the time, 99% of the time, not an issue. I think last time was Cyclone Olwen, was when Cyclone Olwen impacted Carnarvon. There was a lot of them old timber poles that were forced over just due to the rain and the wind. So the more of them we can get out of our network in a replacement package, the better performance will be overall for reliability. We have developed what we call our safety-driven initiatives project. So they let us focus on really failures or risk of failure due to local environmental conditions. So Carnarvon does have a lot of rust issues. It does have a lot of that. So we've been able to focus on some insulator failures. We've seen when we start to see a trend of it to get ahead of it before it becomes an issue affecting reliability. So our projects will keep focusing on that reliability. We want to further develop the Isles Road substation contingency plan. So on Isles Road, we've got our substation supplies the town. We have a contingency plan there. So should that fail, how would we supply the town? We just want to develop that to the next stage to say, well, what other options have we got to try and we do stress test our contingency plans a lot. We do a lot of desktop engineering and say, what happens if this were to happen? What happens if this would happen? So we've consistently tested on reliability. So we'll keep developing that. In Coral Bay, so we're working on design for a feeder interconnection plan. So in Coral Bay at the moment, where our network layout goes, there is a couple of sections of HV cable, high voltage cable, that we've identified would be really good to have a link between there too. So it's another backfeed opportunity should failure occur. And that'll mean that, again, ability to supply the town should someone impact our cable, our infrastructure. So we're at design stage on that, looking at the options of where it could go and what load would need to be on it. And really, yeah, it's just our main drive is reliability. So the way we look at reliability in Horizon Power and to our regulator is we look at faults in different ways. We look at what really was something we could have foreseen and should have acted, or something we couldn't have seen and seen. So we have regularized and unregularized data. So regularized is what we say our performance is, unregularized data is exactly what our customer sees, everything from a lightning strike through to a car versus pole, through all them. So we're really starting to pull up the unregularized data now to say, is there any wins we can have in here that not necessarily is Horizon Power's fault, but we could have some influence over to improve the reliability to our customers and to our region. So, yeah, I know there's been some conversations with the Shire and the councils regarding other projects Horizon Power's run that could be in this region, including decarbonisation and community batteries. They're ones that essentially run out of Perth. I'm aware of them, and the conversations have been had, but it's just a challenging environment in that renewables aspect at the moment. So having fixed timelines and knowledge of them is an ongoing issue. Yeah, but for us at Horizon locally, that's kind of what we're delivering here for the Shire and for the town. Any questions, concerns, feedback?
Yeah, I suppose it wasn't that long ago, and I'm pretty sure you're well ahead of it, that running over under the river and whatever, but when we had that last flood and there was, I don't know, what you say, an unforeseen circumstance where you had, say, people jet skiing on the river and you had to shut down the whole river. Has it got to the point now that you've been able to, shut it down in sections if it's required? Is that?
We improved it over the last couple of years with that interconnection and changing cut switch points. Where we haven't got to yet is Horizon Power 2 years ago, year and a half ago, we went and done that whole LiDAR survey of our whole network in this region. What I've always really wanted is to have like a LiDAR survey done on the river and how it floods. So I think a few years of knowing me, I've always wanted that data to say, well, at a 7 metre river, this is where it impacts Horizon Power's assets. At a 7.5 metre, including our conductor spans going across the river. So that way I can have a strategic project that can target that to say, well, here we'd have to move this asset here to create fallback positions along the river, depending on heights and bits and pieces. We haven't been able to get really good data in regards to that flood mitigation study yet. So if you're aware of any governmental group or anyone that's got that information, I'd really be interested. Because that's what I'd like to develop.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah. There has been a LiDAR survey done.
Yeah.
As to whether I don't know that the information is down to the level you need for your assets, because at the moment it's not picking up the smaller levies, people that have constructed levies on their property.
Yep.
It's picking up the large levies, but it hasn't picked up the smaller levies. So I'm suspecting it probably wouldn't pick up your assets at the level that they've done that. It'd
be a starting point.
It probably would be a good starting point, but I think people to talk to is probably in DWER.
Yeah. Yep. They're the conversations we've had with them, because we've shared all our LiDAR data with DWER just to see if there's any interest of what we've done for them.
Yeah.
And we were just hoping that they would share back when it was appropriate. So I will follow that one up.
Yeah, I'd follow up with them.
But sorry.
Yeah, but I'm not that confident that you get that information, because we're trying to understand. I was hoping from that we would get information that would demonstrate what some of these levies are doing. There's an area on Robinson Street where there are some home self-constructed levy systems, and they haven't been picked up in the LiDAR. For example, there's a concrete wall on a couple of properties that's been put in place and it's never been picked up.
Yeah.
So basically, but yeah, I think it's really worth talking to them and having a look at it if they will.
Yeah. The other one probably the growers are interested in the Carnarvon region is usually when we get into our summer readiness program. So what we do for our summer readiness is we look at the loads and expected peak loads for not just our generation, but right down to our feeders themselves in their current state, to see is there a potential for overloading, like to even individual transformer level, where we'll look at the individual transformers themselves and say, all right, has the load profile changed from what we seen last summer? Have customers come and install more equipment, and we can see that through our advanced metering data, things like that, that can give us predictions to say, this could need upgrading, this could do that. So Carnarvon, we've just finished, it's in draft format, I've been through it. So to the Carnarvon Shire, the summer readiness program looks really good, but in regards to generation capacity, there's a couple of slightly potentially overloaded transformers that could happen. So they're only minor works that will get done before the peak summer period. But conductors, everything else was looking really good. So yeah.
Good one. One quick one on Coral Bay capacity, because there has been some very early discussions on the future development there.
Yep.
So current capacity is okay.
Current capacity is fine. Like I said, there's some conversations around about what the future does look like there.
Yeah.
In regards to generation capacity, renewable capacity, even power quality. So the more that infrastructure's been undergrounded, it does have some issues in regards to performance, in regards to having to need more run more generators or put reactors in to absorb power quality issues. So again, we've got a team in Horizon Power that looks at that, sees what the future growth is. We're very interested to have the RAC caravan park come back online and get that load back in there, because we put another transformer in there as well.
Yeah.
But all the data modelling that we've been given so far suggests the capacity is fine. And we'll look to the future to say, all right, what's the growth rate of Coral Bay? Where should we be?
For example, if you were to see another development, the equivalent of what the RAC are doing now, what sort of impact would that have? Equivalent or bigger?
It'd definitely have impact. It would have impact.
Yeah.
So whether the developer themselves were asked to pay for the headworks cost for initial generation or not, that'd be the question. Yeah. The small towns like that, small communities like that, any development of that size does have an impact, there's no doubt. Not so much, like I said, the network construction itself it would have the capacity for a majority of it, not all of it, but there would be some generation augmentation required to bring it up to ensure we had enough capacity. What we kind of do is usually then places we might manage our generation into, if we lost our two biggest sets, will we still have more than enough capacity? That's what we rely on, saying losing our two biggest set, plus maintaining a buffer, plus having capacity at peak load. So yeah.
All right.
One more, just in regards to the comms. That was a big issue last time, what have you, and what my understanding is, once the power was cut off to those comms towers, Telstra towers and what have you, there's a battery or backup there that kick in for a certain period. But has there been any work done between Horizon and Telstra in regards to sort of making it a bit more bulletproof?
Not specifically between Horizon Power and Telstra. I'm just aware of Telstra have discussions with Horizon and Western Power, no doubt, about when would there be impacts, so they can better know how to make their assets more resilient. I think that specifically for that one, when the tower that goes into Lake McLeod goes out, the idea now when we had to turn off the crossing, that we could bring it back around the bridge, back down there, then back to that tower specifically. So that was one of the ones we looked at to say, we had to turn that off early, and it did have impact, and what can we do? So that was a nice bit of low hanging at the moment when we're able to have a look at that one. But like I said, there's still some low patches in between there that we need to figure out how do we get where they are, specifically where they are, and is there a better way of getting supply to them? Like I said, if we had that real good LiDAR survey, it could have a look at our Bibbulwarra crossing there, our Lake McLeod tower line, and they position the best place they could be in the future to get better reliability outcomes. So yeah, that's definitely an interest of Horizon Power projects, just to try and get that accuracy of the data, because the accuracy of the data, like it drives everything from there. It'll drive the needs of the project. It'll show what it means and what can be done. And within that, there may be low-hanging fruit, and there may be some really challenging projects that take time.
No further questions. Thanks very much, Pete.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Right, councillors, we'll jump straight into the departmental reports. Item 7.1.1, status of council decisions. Over mover, please. Councillor Bertmanzo. Second, please. Councillor Kelly. Councillors, is there any questions or debate on this item? Being no debate, no questions, the doctor will be no, they thank you, Mrs. Hill, 8-0. Positive, so that. Item 7.1.2, actions performed under delegated authorities for the months of July, and August. Councillor Farina. Councillor Vanderloo, you second that, or just councillor Silver? Thank you. Any questions or debate, councillors? Any questions or debate? That is still 8-0. Item 7.1.3, the Christmas New Year shutdown. Two sections to this, and so we can do those both together. 1 and 2. Councillor Farina. Councillor Manager. Once again, councillors, any questions or debate? No debate, that's adopted unanimously, thank you. Item 7.1.4, Northwest Defence Alliance and financial contribution. Other mover, please. Councillor Dutton. Seconder, please. Councillor Kelly. Thank you. By absolute majority. Any questions or debate? No questions or debate, that's unanimous, and this is still 8-0. Item 7.1.5, tip amnesty for Carnarvon Rose. There's 4 of us have moved, cleared in this item, councillors, and we'll leave the room. It's financial interest. You still have a simple majority that can go through. I just asked before I leave the room if council, the other council would consider changing the summary of the report, the wording in there, and into back to the motion, where it says granting a tip amnesty for plantation growers along North River Road, South River Road, and the Glades Road. Delete that and put in amnesty for plantation owners or growers engaged in commercial horticultural enterprises in the Carnarvon area. That way, it's because if you read that to the letter of the law, there are growers outside of those 3 roads that are great, and it's limiting them out of them. So if the councils
before the councillors go, can I just ask a question in terms of section 5.68 of the Act, 1B, 2I and 2? The members can decide that the interest is, I would suggest it's reasonably insignificant, and it's common to a significant number of electors or ratepayers.
163 plantation properties over
3,418 voters registered.
That's a significant number in relation to the.
Is the insignificance of the benefit going to have any weight on it? Because I think it mentions in there it's a relatively immaterial amount of lost revenue, and that's spread across 100 X amount of people. Would that mean it's relatively insignificant to each grower?
So the previous time, I think we've left the room, and then at one time the councillors that didn't have an interest move a motion that we asked to refer to the vote.
Some councillors, some councils do a policy where they have councillors members as well, just provides a high level of governance.
Yeah, that's right, and that's what I'm concerned about. the level of governance that you're applying to this. When I look at personally, I think 163, 3,000. 418, it's not a significant number. If it was 500, I would think that would then be a significant number, but at 163, I don't think it's significant. And also the public perception of the 4 growers on council making a decision to benefit themselves. This has to be considered by councillors as well. So.
No, that's fine. I thought I would ask a question.
No, that's a very good question. Thank you for asking, because it allows for this discussion to happen, so everybody gets a better understanding of the thinking behind it. But if it was to be used, that waiver was to be used heavily, then it would be more than an insignificant amount. Because I know one grower being myself, that in the last waiver had quite a number of 10-ton tip truckloads removed from my property. I'm happy to leave the room, councillor, but if you would consider the wording so that it didn't possibly restrict on both. Appreciate it. Therefore, I'll leave the room.
Or is it amended?
No, well, you go ahead, we haven't voted yet, so that's fine. What would you like to?
Along the lines that President Smith mentioned, a deletion of the geographic locations and along the lines of valid for commercial operators, which also captures Dudley's in a commercial area, not fully out of Port Street, there's the commercial operators. And I'd also like to put a 4th point in, request the CEO to implement appropriate record keeping to monitor quantity of eligible waste delivered to the tip over the course of the amnesty. So that next year, that if it comes up again, we've got some knowledge, is it 100 tonnes or is it 10,000 tonnes when it comes down to the actual dollars and cents it may be costing us.
Just for clarification, Councillor Kelly, you said commercial.
I think that was the word.
Is that assisted? Understanding I'll capture that correctly.
Because we've got to be careful. I think it's intensive horticultural practices, what the president was getting to.
Yep.
Word commercial, as you're aware, falls into other zonings within Carnarvon.
Well, I choose intensive
Horticulture.
Yeah.
Intensive.
Intensive horticulture, so not commercial, because commercial then also, commercial zoning.
It's like commercial growers.
Commercial growers, okay, well, maybe just be specific. Commercial growers. You'll actually hand code and have to go. Just the word commercial, area zone commercial. Yep. Leave that, happy with that? Yeah. The plantation growers engaged in intensive horticultural practice in Carnarvon. Yep.
Councillor Philip, can you just repeat your number 4, please?
Oh, sorry, request CEO to implement appropriate record keeping, monitor quantity of eligible waste delivered to tip.
Record.
Keeping. Monitor quantity. Eligible waste. Delivered to tip and course of amnesty. Let me ask one further question. the month of October is still heavily into production. Most of my Vietnamese growers, they start shutting down second week of December. So they've, for the month of October, there'll be very little wet. Well, they won't have time to take the waste off. I always thought the period February or March, probably February is a good time. Most of them will wait until end of January. And most have started their first patch planting by early to mid-March. So that month of February is when they're in cleaning up and back on the ground. So in October, I think there'd be very little take up, in my experience.
So the month of October was a date that was chosen based on previous times when we had the tip amnesty out there. One of them going back a few years ago was actually over a period of 3 months. What we could do is, if you want to allow a 1 month tip amnesty, what we can do is contact the affected growers and find out the most popular month to implement that, and provide feedback to council, and we can go ahead with amnesty based on the month that they prefer as a whole.
Any operational. The shy of finding that the morning, why just on that one at this stage we've done just a couple of for doing it.
I don't know, maybe that's a good point, because you don't have the data that back up. Excellent questions.
Well, again, I just, whatever council think is fair, but certainly I don't think October you'll get any uptake, so
You went from October through to December.
I'd probably say December through to March, if you're going to do a quarter.
Can I just say, I think part of the intention of the period timing was that it's done prior to fire and cyclone season. If we're putting it all the way through to March, it's defeating part of that purpose.
No, again, in terms of take up as a practical, I respect the comment, but in all practicality, back in the old days, we used to finish mid-September. We've got most of the ground growers still going in December, mid-December, and then you got mangoes, you got grapes.
For the sake of it, if you just want to clarify, you asked a question around the period of the time. So we can get into it and actually have some debate.
Yeah.
Motion and then standing orders, so you can have those
Yeah.
discussions.
Sounds good.
Okay, who's left in the room? Item 7.1.5, tip amnesty for Carnarvon growers. Councillor Kelly's moved a slightly amended motion. So he's moved that. Before we go for a second, should we move to suspense? All right, so can I get a seconder? Councillor Vandler. Okay, would anyone like to move to suspend standing orders? Councillor Kelly, Councillor Vandler. Standing orders suspended. Okay, so going back to previous discussions on the point, you're looking at changing or requesting a change from October. Councillor Vandler suggested it make any difference between really whether we do it for a month or up to 3 months. So you're saying you prefer, and taking into account what Councillor Coxwell said in regards to its fire and cyclone season, you want to motivate them.
Over December.
I can only go on my experience. Perhaps a better group to ask would be Carnarvon growers. So I know that's actually not answering the intent of the motion, but
So we go on.
Also, the intent is acknowledging that some of the growers already have existing materials on their plantations that need to go. So if we were to do October, November, December, that will clear up the backlog that they have now. And then moving forward, when we do, if it's considered again, when we bring this item to council, we can have a look at the success or statistics from that, and then potentially look at changing the dates to another month if it wasn't appropriate.
Listen, you know what I mean? And then if it comes back and we've got an extension or, you know, collected enough data.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Just what I led on for, I think I think 3 months is good, but you don't want to go too much because like I said, the whole idea of it is to get people to start moving their stuff. So if you make it 4 or 5 months, there's going to be no motivation to actually start doing it. So.
okay, so we're looking for a consensus here. So October through December. Is everyone happy with that?
Yeah.
Happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay, then can we make those changes? Done October through December. Okay, is there any other discussions? Otherwise we'll move back into Councillor Handler. Councillor Kelly, go back into standing orders. You all right, Kenny?
Slow process.
Okay, so we have a slightly amended motion moved by Councillor Paul Kelly, seconded Luke Vanderler. Everyone's happy with those amendments. All those in favour? 0. Okay. Yeah, I'll just now let's leave now and keep going. We'll get through this a lot quicker.
Pretty emotional, so we can read it out.
Councillors, who they will benefit after much heated and gracious debate. Councillor Kelly moved a slight amendment to the motion put forward and was seconded by Councillor Vanderler. And the council simple majority approve a tip amnesty for plantation growers engaged in intensive horticulture practice in Carnarvon area for the months of October 2025 through December 2025. And also to request that the CO to implement appropriate record keeping to monitor quantity of eligible waste delivered to tip over the course of the amnesty. So I'd strongly urge all growers to take full advantage in 3 months coming into fire season. So
Thank you.
Paul Hill.
Can I say something to that, please? No, can't say one. No.
The motion's dealt with, or just you can last. No, yeah, motion dealt with, we'll move right along. Thank you very much. Going on to item 7.1.6, review of the corporate business plan and strategic plan. Strategic community plan. I have a mover, please. Councillor B. Madeline. Second offence, Councillor Farina. Councillors, is there any questions or debate on this item? Is there any questions or debate, councillors? Doc, do you want to speak to the motion? I speak to the motion.
Yes, so basically things to do with their strategic community plan and all the business plan moving forward. But on the last item, number 4, basically after October, we're looking, we'll have the elections come up. We're looking for a considerable change around the table here at council level. So basically there will be a full review enabling the newly elected council to establish a strategic planning cycles. That's basically just a review, getting prepared for that. So all up to that on the matter.
Thank you, councillor Maslin. Knight. A couple of questions. Do we actually have a workforce plan and organisational structure that we could see? And do we have the haven't checked?
Was planned to have that, needs to be updated.
Yep.
And the organisational structure was presented to council. We had a workshop for here and we uploaded it across that long table there. It was also emailed out to all users of the general for with recent.
I didn't put much.
Last question, sorry.
Yeah.
That was just the structure, so that listed all the positions in the shire, that's right, but it wasn't an actual workforce, adopted workforce plan though.
No, so the workforce plan that we've got is outdated at the moment. It needs to be updated and reviewed, and then we've got the organisational structure which was presented.
Do we have an updated project management plan?
Asset management plan. And there is some minor adjustments there are some minor adjustments to the current purchasing program that is reflected, that is reviewed yearly. That piece is yet to be completed, but the overarching plan, yes, is in place.
So the other one question I had is the keeping kids in Carnarvon briefing paper, which is referred to on page 34. That's not complete yet. On page 34, it's got key inclusions are the stage review and implementation of a new enterprise resource planning system, expansion of the Shire CCTV capability, and strengthened advocacy actions such as the Keeping Kids in Carnarvon briefing paper.
That's a document being required to need at the moment, so that's providing career pathways for different children.
Okay. That's all I have. Question, any other questions?
Speakers for and against president, or doesn't know?
Oh, if you have got a question, or do you want to speak for or against it?
It's
Well, I've had a speaker for it, so it's a speaker against if you wish to
yeah,
speak.
pretty broad, yes, okay. We went to the budget meeting, which the transparency, I did not support the budget and that financial direction. This document supports that budget, which I didn't support that budget at the time. So, and there's elements in this that justify that direction of the budget. So things, so the organizational chart, and there's a few other things in there as well. So purely because I couldn't support the budget at the time, I can't support because these are the reasons why the budget is where it is. So it would not be consistent of me to support this either. So I need to be consistent, not the direction they are up to council head. So no particular issues. It's my desire to be consistent. So thank you.
Any further speakers for the motion, councillors? Any further speakers against the motion? That being the case, I'll put to the vote, councillors. All those in favour? All those against? That's adopted. Mrs. Hill, 5-3. Thank you.
Oh, so you're against us.
Next slide, please. Wait, or not? Used to go against. Those up there.
Item 7.1.7, CEO's additional leave period and extension of appointment of acting CEO. On the mover, please, councillor Dudley Maslow. Second, please, councillor Vandeler. Councillors, is there any questions or debate on this item? Being the case, that's adopted unanimously. Thank you very much. Item 7.2.1, accounts paid under delegated authority 2025. Move it, please. Councillor Farina. Second, councillor Andler. Councillors, is there any debate or? Being no further questions. That's adopted unanimously, Mr. Cook. Thank you. Item 7.2.2, monthly financial report 2025. Move it, please. Councillor Kelly. Second, please. Councillor Mandela. Is there any debate or questions, councillor? Being no debate or questions, that's adopted unanimously. Thank you. Item 7.2.3, amendment 2025-26 fees and charges. So Councillor Kelly. Second, please. Councillor Vandeler. Once again, councillors. Do we have any debate or questions? Being no debate or questions, that's adopted unanimously. Thank you. Item 7.3.1, the MOU and the Coral Bay vote. I'll remove it, please. Councillor Farina. Councillor Burke-Maslow. Councillors, is there any debate? You speak for the motion.
Just wanted to thank CEO and Shire staff for making this happen. I feel it was more of a just tidying something up that had been done, that I realised needed to be done in the past. I know it does appear from the outside that it's the Shire providing extra service for no extra income, but I think there will be pretty much no extra direct cost to the Shire providing the service, and there will be an obvious result to the Coral Bay community for it. So I think if you look at it in that direction, that's definitely an obvious thing to go ahead and do. So, but yeah, thank you for getting it organised and getting it done.
Thank you. Speakers against the motion?
Yeah, I'll speak against it, but completely understand what Councillor Coshrell's saying there, and also what Stefan put to us the other day. It makes a hell of a lot of sense. And if I was sitting in your position, I think I was a real guilt speaking against it, but I'm going to speak against it anyway. On the basis that it does basically the expectation that it creates, and I'm more concerned with like the zoomed out. This is, I feel like we as a Shire have had a lot of problems as a result of trying to go that little bit of extra step, as a result of not kind of putting our foot down saying we want something in return to provide these services, which do come at a cost to us, the Shire and ratepayers. And I think there's some precedents to be seen from when the Shire has decided to take a stand. One recently is when the council decided that it wouldn't accept like plain non-compliant landing on our line, despite being told it wasn't going to do any damage. Hold it, push back on that, and get some funding to address that problem. I think this is more of an example of something that will wind up being like a scene where the Shire is looking after an asset which one can't afford to. I realise we can afford to look after this one, but the way these things tend to grow over time, I don't like the direction that they head. I think if there's a conversation had at the start where that's articulated to the owner of the land, then they can put their hand in their pocket and start paying to maintain their asset rather than having that burden fall on the Shire. And I've got a real problem with the expectation that it will create. I think the expectations don't seem like a big deal at the time, but they tend to evolve and grow. And what starts off as like a gentleman's agreement and we're all sort of patting each other up on the back, having a great time, turns into becomes the Shire's responsibility. The more snowballs, new councils come along, and that status quo remains. And I think future councils will take and go, how do we wind up in this position where we're looking after all this stuff and getting no income for it? And to me, we wound up in that position because of this meeting today, where we decided not to push back and go get a checkbook out of last. So I'll be waiting against it.
Thank you, councillor Vanderlei. Any speakers for the motion? Any further speakers against the motion? Councillor Farina moved this, so before I ask you to close the debate, I'll just put forward. Would and being extremely mindful and agreeing with what you said, councillor Vanderlei, and I think you're absolutely right. Expectations can lead us into down the wrong path at times. Would the moving councillors consider adding to point 1 ranges to enforce relevant legislation and issue for infringements at the Coral Bay boat ramp facility for a 12-month period, for a period of 12 months, with a review at the end to see how it's going, and if it's starting to track in the wrong direction and starting to really cost us money, we can review what we're doing or change what we're doing. Would that, I think, would put us in the position where we can provide the service, which will keep the community in Coral Bay happy, and also have the discretion to review what we're doing and renegotiate with transport, something that might be far more suitable than what we imagine could happen. So at the moment, we don't have any evidence that the expectations could grow, but I suspect they may. But I think that's a way forward there. The Coral Bay community see the service occurring, and we also have an out, if that makes sense, or we have the option of increasing or developing something else with the Department of Transport that works. So
Would I second it? I second your.
that's it.
Margaret, you.
So the point 1 will have after the word grant facility for a period of 12 months. And then the process will be reviewed. Okay, so with that, councillors, that's now the substantive motion. With that accepting that.
You close the motion's been substantive. Am I able to speak again?
If you are.
Motion. Yep. I'm happy to speak for that motion as well. I'm supportive of that, but remembering this current agreement allows us to remove ourselves from the agreement at any time. It is for a period of 2 years and then to be revised, but there's nothing binding us to providing this service for any period of time. So it is very open agreement. So I don't actually feel there's a need for that under this agreement, but I will still support that motion so that it still gets through.
Thank you. Any further speakers against the motion?
Yeah, I'll speak against it. It's still not good enough for me. If you're prepared to negotiate for 12 months' time, I don't see why you're not prepared to negotiate now. I think of a bunch of different things that people do to help us. But for example, let's swap, let's give them, they give us the boat ramp, we give them the facine. We give them. No, but honestly, let's swap.
It's not, look,
There's that's something that we can go and do at relatively little cost because we've got rangers in the area. The reality is they dredge the harbour. And they've got a dredging area, so they could come into the dredge and do the same for us relatively. Without a little bit more effort as well. It's a pile of different examples, and I can go on and on, but negotiate now. You know it's not gonna, the revenue's not gonna be a significant factor. Negotiate now. If there's people in Coral Bay that have a problem, point to it and say, here's a sign, it's a DOT land, go and talk to DOT. They come and talk to us and we arrange a solution. This kind of like meandering on for 12 months and negotiating at the end of it. I think you just lose your position of leverage because you basically show that you're there. So that's why I won't support it. And I don't disagree with anything Councillor Cottrell saying that. I just see these things as they get, if a can gets kicked down the road and it gets bigger and bigger and throws it. So that's why I won't support it.
Thank you, Councillor Angela. Would you like to close the debate, Councillor? With that, councillors, all those in favour? All those against? That's lost. Who's six? Councillors Cottrell and Farina. Oh, Councillor Leslie, sorry, councillor. .3.2 Community Growth Fund application on the outgoing sponsorship round. Yes. I might have a mover for Councillor Vandler. Deputy, please, Councillor Ferreira. Councillors, is there any debate or discussion on this? Councillor.
No, nothing, just short, sweet. I'd just like to thank the staff and the council committee who do this, because I know it's not easy. It's all summarised in a few pages here, but there's an enormous amount of work to go through to get to this point. So thank you. The outcome.
Thank you very much. I'm sure Councillor Sheed also. Thank you. Councillors, is there any debate? There being no debate, that's unanimously. Thank you. Councillors, item 7.3.3, the public health plan. Councillor Ferreira. Seconded by Councillor Kelly. We have any debate? Being no debate, that's adopted unanimously. Thank you. Item 7.4 infrastructure services black spot funding on Speedway Road. Councillor Vanderbilt has an interest in this item, that is leading the room. Oh, wait. That's on that, Burke Mansell. Second, please. Councillor Kelly. Councillors, we have three options in front of us. The mover and seconder do you have a preferred option? That you really
Can I move Vince down?
who's seconded that? Councillor Skender.
So that can be debated or debated, discussed.
Yes. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you, Mrs Hill.
Well, so to clarify with the second, councillor Gully, it's option 2 that he was more towards.
Councillor Mason and I'm looking at option 3. Into that.
No, no, there's no debate now. There's clarity on that. So the council elects to approve option 1, 2, and 3. So it's asking the question. So whoever moves it should have moved the action. As when you moved it, what option did you want to move?
Well, I moved it under current officer's recommendation and then in order so that we could ask some questions around those options to get that clarity. So my question being is if option 2 is was council's preferred option, what's our level of liability insurance wise?
I suggest that if there's dissent between mover and seconder over which option, that we go back into standing orders and we move foreshadowed motion to ensure that we get something happening.
Just from a standing orders point of perspective, so you'd have substantive.
Standard motion, which is at the moment is put forward by, but there's disagreement between the mover and the seconder on which one. So, but that can be part of the debate. But if to move forward, if someone wants to change it now, I think what we'd have to do is foreshadow a motion once we get back in this standing orders. So if someone's not satisfied, we can move a foreshadow motion.
Yeah, through the chair, it's okay, we can question.
Well, what was your question?
Well, we're suspended standing
Yeah.
orders, so we can ask questions.
Yeah.
And I've asked a question to the chair to say what is our level of liability if we were to go with option 2? Are we covered insurance wise, or are we just mitigating the circumstances enough to?
Answer the question. I did reach out and speak with our insurer. I guess the response was that option 3 is ultimately covers every aspect and every liability. Option 2 is seen as a moderate level of risk. However, of course, the coverage stands, but it's the question is whether it could be contested. What option 2 would provide is we know that there is a risk, and option 2 and option 3 both would reduce the risk. And the suggestion is that in option 2, it would require ongoing management and a review. It could be reviewed at a later date to see whether it's mitigating the risk. But ultimately, option 3 is it removes. Well, it doesn't entirely remove the risk actually, because there still is an intersection there. And it's not to say that there would be a crash. However, it would significantly reduce that risk. Currently, the risk is that we don't have signage, and the nature of the road is that people can drive down to 110 kilometres an hour. That's not going to change. What we can do is we can, in option 2, is as outlined in option 2, that will reduce the risk. But option 3 is seen as a low risk and option 2 is seen as a moderate level of risk.
Any question? If I may. This has been going around for a fair while. The last, how relevant are the last costings? Are they going to be, in your experience, they're going to be a mile out or?
I would expect it to be a mile out. I would expect that it would be a modest amount, but a modest, I would expect it would be in line with CPI. However, what I can't talk to is the current level of other roadworks at the time, which could impact availability and therefore increase the risk. Sorry, increase the potential for high costs. But conservatively, I'd expect it would be in line with CPI.
Someone would like to move regarding standing orders, please. Councillor Burt Maslin. Seconded by Councillor Kelly. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you, Mr. Chill. Councillor Maslin.
It's a mover of the motion, and now that I've had those clarification up to the minute to answer that question, I'd like to propose option 3. Councillor Kelly, have any objections in that? Councillor Kelly, and remove the motion. Can I speak to the motion?
You may speak to the motion. Yeah.
Right, as the response from Stanley satisfied my curiosities to know that then going forward to reduce the liability and risk, as well as keeping the road open for those users that need it the most. I suggest we go with option 3 to mitigate and reduce the liability not only on this council and staff but also future council members. So therefore, I put option 3 to be the preferred option and visual council.
Any speakers against the motion? Any further speakers for the motion?
Thank you, Mr. President. Another one of those things in the last week or so, I've actually gone out and physically seen what we're talking about. And it's been probably 2 years since I was last out there. Leaving the road open is, I believe, beneficial to our horticulture community. Even at my sedate driving pace, just in terms of time to go to the southern entrance of Bath, if you live north of the if you're on the northern blocks, is 20 or 30 minutes time if you're probably going in a truck. So there is that to consider. There's also the consideration of getting a large amount of waste removal off the highway, particularly at that busy intersection. So you're moving it up Speedway Road, out of sight, out of mind. Again, without the full data, I do believe there would be a benefit there. I can't verify at the moment in the event of a flood of a higher level that we would still have access, particularly for the plantations, to remove wet damage, everything else that occurs during a flood. So in that respect, again, I'd like to thank the administration's work in putting all these options together, but like Councillor Maslin, I would commend to my fellow councillors to accept option 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. Councillor Maslin, would you like to close the debate? Thank you very much. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Very much. Someone please get Councillor Maslin. Councillors, applications for leave of absence. Do we have any absence? Oh, sorry, Councillor Vanderleer. The motion was put with option 3 selected. And that was adopted unanimously. Thank you. Applications for leave of absence, councillors, is there any application for leave? There are nil. Motions of which previous notice has been given, there are nil. Do we have any questions from members without notice?
I don't have a question, but I'd like to say something if that's all right. Firstly, I want to say thank you very much to all the staff and the councillors for giving that MC to the growers. I'd like to urge all growers, please take advantage of this and, you know, don't sit at home and be lazy and not take advantage of going around cleaning up your rubbish. Because if we do get a flood or cyclone, it will affect the rest of us in town. So please take advantage of this. And thank you to all the councillors for voting this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, councillor Greener. Councillors, I'm supposed to have. You just bear with me. Minute, please. This won't take long. If he can come now, but I've got something else I want to raise. Yeah, so councillors, if you don't mind, if we suspend standing orders, councillor Vandler, councillor Maslin, all those in favour. I'll try and be as quick as I can. But be following in, and I'm just trying to get rid of some of them. So, former councillor Fullerton, through his work at Curtin University, has asked me to table something because the university wants an answer as to whether we will support the university in sorry. So if they're after, please bear with me. A gentleman by the go there. You got it there? Oh, full. That's it's not the whole letter.
Support letter.
Yeah, letter of support. No, I don't want the letter of support. They're just describing. So. As chair of the / member of the Australian Business Deans Council of the ABDC, principal for the Responsible Management Education National Working Party on Climate Action. All about climate action. I am currently preparing an application for the Vision Grants Program collaboration with 2 other universities in the eastern states. Our project, Transforming Climate Education and Literacy Through Lived Experience and Youth Agency from Community to Classroom in brackets, seeks to address the urgent need for systemic change in climate education. The Vision grants provide research planning for up to 6 to 12 months, enabling a team to collaboratively design ambitious large-scale research projects aimed at transforming our educational systems to greater equity. Our specific focus is engaging rural, regional and marginalised communities by fostering youth leadership, embedding community voices and amplifying lived experiences in climate literacy. I was wondering whether the Industry and Community Hub currently has established relationships with community groups or local councils that we might be able to draw upon. Alternatively, would it be possible to connect them directly to seek letters of support for this endeavour? That's what it's about, guys, and I'm not going to say we're going to support that because I have some personal thoughts on that one, which I'll keep to myself. But anyway, is there an interest in the Shire Council that we support this endeavour?
I think it needs to be, we need to see what it's actually about for it to be tabled before we can support it.
Well, I asked the former councillor Fullerton what it basically is about. It's about educating these people in and embedding an understanding of climate change within the youth. Their opinion. Councillor Duncan.
What that opinion, I would, yeah.
So I'm not going to write a letter of support if council doesn't agree. Or
Thank you, Mr. President. Being a dinosaur and been here for a while. I've just watched local government generate from roads, rates from rubbish to all sorts of rubbish. And I just can't see us getting more and more involved in things that we don't get remunerated for, don't get allowed time to consider, and they're outside our aspect. So another part of this, I want a better thing with Trump and go this work, this is going on in the world. I don't think that's got anything to do with us. As individuals, we can support or not support these sort of things. As far as representatives of a community, I don't think that it's for us to support or oppose this sort of thing. It's thank council for council for bringing it to their notice, but I don't think it's in our sphere of influence or responsibility. Thank you very much.
Question closed. Yes. It's an administration or a governance issue. Typically, letters of support are issued by the administration. Support for a project might be a different kettle of fish, but from what you've read, it was at this point a letter of support.
no, I specifically asked for a letter of support. That's what
A letter of support, yeah. Typically not something that would come through council. I just as an observation.
Yeah, it's quite a few companies. Anyway, so thank you, Dudley, for that. I'm just trying to get an idea of what council's thoughts are on it, whether or not we provide that. It's a letter of support from the council, not specifically the Shire council, the actual council.
Be wise to, I know Councillor Kelly has said, but if it is asking council, then maybe wise to bring it to us then formally.
They want an answer before the end of August. That's what I've done, and I've only just got.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the email I got, they're asking for it by the end of August. So, and if that doesn't, submissions closed, so we've got that invite. So. I'll leave it at that. Thank you. Yes, yes. So 5 and 12 councillors. Meeting for which we closed the members. Oh, sorry. There's one other thing I wanted to do before we close the meeting to the public. Councillor. Oh, you've already turned it off, haven't you?
No.
So can we go back into thank Councillor Burke-Madden, Councillor Mandler, all those in favour? If unanimous, thank you, Mrs. Hill. One last bit of business before we go to item 12, and that is Councillor Mandler, you'd like to say something?
I caught up with the Shire President a few weeks ago, advised him that this would be my last council meeting. So this is my final episode on the Shire of Carnarvon series for my character, being killed off and killing myself off rather, and focusing on some other things. So yeah, this was my last council meeting. I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank the community for giving me the opportunity and this responsibility to come in and represent them in this arena. It's been a really positive experience. I've learned a hell of a lot from it. I'd also like to thank my fellow councillors. We've had a lot of tough debates and stuff over this time, and we've had a lot of really funny moments in here too. Not all councillors were here for all of them, but I'm thinking back to the Pigeon Wars and Uncle Merton and things like that. We've had some really good laughs in here. But most of all, what I've enjoyed is the debate, and we've had some really hardcore debates in here, and I've had my mind changed on several occasions by people putting forward arguments really well. But most of all, I've appreciated the fact that we've been able to have those debates and walk out into the street and stay friends, which has been good because it's not always like that when that kind of thing happens, but I think it's testament to the kind of council that president's overseeing here and the kind of council that you guys have all contributed to. It takes a team effort to make an environment like that. Credit also must go to the staff. I've learned a lot more about what the staff do through this role than a lot of other things. And you guys put a hell of a lot of time into this stuff, and I can appreciate it'd be a really frustrating position at times. Put so much time into things and then have that motion come to the table and go down. And just like to assure you that it's not a reflection of the quality of the work. It's always other things, and we wouldn't be able to have the debate that we were having about it if you guys weren't putting that quality in front of us. So I appreciate the effort that's gone into that over all the years. And as I look, there's faces I have worked with for a longer period of time than others, but I think don't really know what it is that Stefan does with the planning. I don't understand it, but I've like watched Steph grow within the organisation and do a hell of a lot of good work in the community, and I've seen that on weekends and stuff like that. And everyone else has got examples, and Jamie and Colm, I'm sure you guys are going to show that kind of commitment to the role as well. I'm already seeing that kind of quality coming through. So your professionalism and like the resilience of the team is really commendable. And I just like to wish you all the best and just sort of encourage you in that. When you guys are doing well in here, it spills out into the community. Like you guys, you have an operational impact on the town from a service perspective, but you also have a cultural impact on the town. So when you guys are positive and keeping goals, the town really feels that, and they go along for the ride. So I just wish you all the best for the future. And and I'd like to recognise the work you put in the time that I've been here, and appreciate that. That's about probably finally like to thank my family. They don't want to be watching because they're all picking up the slack from what I'm not doing at the moment, like they have done for the last 6 years. But my brothers have picked up the slack at work when I'm not here, and we've had particularly heavy commitments here. We've been working through things, for example, budgets and various other different things that require more time from the staff. And also my wife, who has tolerated my absence at the dinner table and staring off into space. Unfortunately, one of the problems with being a guy is I can only think about one thing at one time, and when I'm thinking about this, I'm not listening to what's going on around me. So they've your family pays a little bit of the price of what people doing this kind of thing as well. So I'd like to formally acknowledge what they've done, enabling me to hopefully put enough time into this, and hopefully the community feels like they got their money's worth out of it. So that's guys, and maybe ladies going forward. But cheers, thanks a lot.
Thank you, councillor Vanderloo. You've got a little bit to go yet. This a little bit more. Okay, councillors, and I'm sure everybody. We need just before we close the meeting, the members of, can we close the meeting? Members of the public, please. Can I move it, please? Please. Thank you, councillor Vanderloo, councillor Maslin. All those in favour? Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. So councillors, with that, and
I put a declaration of interest in that last one because I've just related to work. I mean, I've got nothing to do with it.
partiality and that's,
Don't live in the same house.
you know, you don't live in the same
Well, I
house.
mean, I wouldn't think so, but I don't.
No, because proximity, no.
Well, anyway, try to speak to you.
Okay. So I need to move to the reopen meeting. Councillor Vanderler, Councillor Karina, all those in favour? Thank you very much. Councillors, thank you very much, councillors and the staff for your efforts today. We're going straight into an audit and risk committee meeting. Do we need to grab a quick coffee?
Well, we're getting work.
Oh, he's got to come back for the audit and risk, so, you know, he might be. But I'll declare the meeting closed.